December in interior Alaska. The sun skirts the southern horizon for 3.5 hours before disappearing, leaving 20 hours of darkness. The thermometer reads -40 Fahrenheit, the point where Celsius and Fahrenheit converge. Cold air sinks into the valleys and sits there, dense and still, with zero wind. This stagnant layer can hold temperatures below -40 for weeks. An off-grid cabin sits in this frozen valley. No power lines connect it to a grid, no water pipes run underground, no gas main delivers fuel. The nearest town is an hour away by truck, assuming the truck starts. Inside, the temperature is 75 degrees. The cabin isn't winning against the cold through passive insulation. It's running a continuous industrial operation, feeding wood into a stove, monitoring moisture on every surface, managing fuel chemistry, and maintaining backup power systems. This is how residents keep that bubble of warmth intact when the temperature outside can freeze. Expose skin in 5 minutes. Interior Alaska operates under different atmospheric rules than coastal zones. The ocean moderates temperature along the inside passage, keeping winters near freezing. The interior has no ocean. It's a continental subarctic zone where air masses move in and settle. The defining feature is the temperature inversion. Normally, air gets colder as altitude increases. During deep winter, December and January, the sun angle is so low and the days so short that the ground never warms. Cold air is denser than warm air. It sinks into the valleys and pools like water. A cabin on a ridge might sit at -10 while the valley floor, a few hundred feet lower, reaches -50. This cold air doesn't move. There's no wind to push it out. It just accumulates. Fairbanks has recorded January averages below -20, with cold snaps dropping temperatures to -60 for extended periods. The record low for the state was -80 at Prospect Creek in 1971. These aren't overnight events. They're endurance tests lasting weeks. The inversion creates dead calm. No breeze, no sound, just dense, heavy air pressing against every surface. This stillness has consequences for visibility. Any moisture introduced into air this cold, from a vehicle exhaust, a dryer vent, a chimney, even human breath, doesn't condense into liquid droplets. It sublimates directly into microscopic ice crystals. This is ice fog. Below -30, the air's capacity to hold water vapor is nearly zero. The crystals don't disperse because there's no wind. They hang suspended, creating a gray, glittering haze that reduces visibility to under a quarter mile. Around cabins with running generators or wood stoves, this creates a localized weather system. Light pillars, vertical columns of light above lamps or headlights, appear when light reflects off hexagonal ice plates suspended in the fog. The environment attacks the senses. The density of cold air alters how sound travels. Sounds become crisp and carry farther, but the snowpack dampens everything, creating strange silences punctuated by violent noise. Frost quakes, cryoseisms, occur when water in the soil expands as it freezes. When pressure exceeds the soil's tensile strength, it fractures with a loud boom. Residents describe it as a gunshot or a cannon blast. Buildings themselves contribute to the noise. Wood framing snaps as it contracts. Nails pop with pistol shot cracks. Cold also mutes smell. Odor molecules move sluggishly at extreme temperatures. The human body compounds this through vasoconstriction, restricting blood flow to the nasal mucous membranes to prevent heat loss. The result is a metallic, sterile sensation. Step inside a cabin and the contrast is overwhelming. Wood smoke, coffee, wet wool, heating oil. The darkness compounds everything. The winter solstice in Fairbanks offers less than 4 hours of daylight. The sun never reaches a proper zenith. It rises in the south-southeast, skirts the southern horizon in a low arc, and sets in the south-southwest. This lack of photostimulation disrupts circadian rhythms. Seasonal affective disorder is common. Symptoms include heaviness in the limbs, intense carbohydrate cravings, hypersomnia, and social withdrawal. Therapeutic lamps emitting 10,000 lux of broad-spectrum light are standard household equipment, used for 30 minutes every morning to suppress melatonin production. The darkness creates a paradox. People move to off-grid cabins for solitude, but the lethal nature of the environment necessitates a buddy system. Failure to appear for a scheduled radio check or a weekly town run triggers a welfare check. The community becomes a survival network bound by shared adversity. Standard residential construction designed for temperate climates fails catastrophically in interior Alaska. The failure mode is specific: vapor drive. A heated cabin generates moisture from cooking, breathing, and drying gear. Warm air holds significantly more moisture than cold air. This warm, wet air naturally seeks to move toward the cold, dry exterior. In a typical stick frame house, 2x6 studs filled with fiberglass batting, the vapor migrates through drywall and insulation until it hits the dew point, the temperature at which vapor condenses back into liquid water. In an Alaskan winter, the dew point occurs inside the wall cavity. The moisture condenses on the cold plywood sheathing and freezes. Over a winter, gallons of ice accumulate inside the walls. When spring arrives, this ice melts. The water rots the structural framing and breeds black mold. Fiberglass insulation, once wet, loses its thermal resistance and becomes useless. The solution is the remote wall system, residential exterior membrane outside insulation technique. It inverts traditional construction logic. Instead of placing a vapor barrier behind the interior drywall, a heavy-duty waterproof membrane is applied to the outside of the structural plywood sheathing. This seals the housebox completely. The insulation moves entirely to the exterior, 6 to 10 inches of rigid foam board stacked against the outside of that membrane. By placing insulation on the exterior, the structural wood and sheathing remain on the warm side. They stay at roughly the same temperature as the interior room. Because the wood stays warm, the dew point is pushed outward into the foam layers. Water can't damage foam the way it destroys wood. The wall remains dry. A remote cabin has distinct visual features. Windows appear deeply recessed, like castle arrow slits, because the walls are nearly a foot thick. Thermal bridging remains a problem. A thermal bridge is any conductive material that spans from the cold exterior to the warm interior, bypassing insulation. Wood has an R value, thermal resistance, of roughly 1 per inch. Rigid foam has an R value of 5 per inch. Wood studs conduct cold more efficiently than the surrounding insulation. Metal fasteners are worse. In poorly built cabins, you can see ghost lines on interior walls, vertical stripes of frost or mold tracing the location of every stud because the wood is conducting cold through the wall assembly. Nail heads can become nucleation points for ice. It's common in older cabins to see white caps of frost on every nail head on a cold morning. The remote system addresses this using furring strips to hang the exterior siding. The fasteners don't penetrate all the way through to the warm interior framing, creating a thermal break that prevents direct conduction. Windows are the weak point of any structure. In Alaska, triple pane glazing is baseline. These windows use low emissivity coatings and argon or krypton gas. Fills between panes to minimize heat transfer. Closing heavy curtains at night seems logical for keeping heat in, but this traps a pocket of air against the glass. This air cools down rapidly, condensing its moisture onto the window surface. If curtains are left closed for days, the window can ice over completely. Experienced cabin dwellers leave curtains slightly open or use small fans to wash the glass with warm interior air. The wood stove is a critical life support machine. The choice of stove material dictates the daily rhythm of the cabin. Steel stoves heat up very fast. When you return to a frozen cabin, a steel stove can raise air temperature quickly through convection, but steel has low thermal mass. As soon as the fire dies, the stove goes cold. This creates the freeze-fry cycle. 80 degrees in the evening, 45 degrees by morning. Residents wake at 2 or 3 in the morning to restoke the fire. Steel has a specific heat capacity of 0.12 BTUs per pound per degree Fahrenheit. A BTU, British thermal unit, measures the energy needed to raise 1 pound of water 1 degree Fahrenheit. Cast iron provides better radiant heat than steel and holds heat for a moderate duration, but cast iron is brittle. Rapid temperature changes, thermal shock, can crack the iron plates, a catastrophic failure in winter. Cast iron stoves require frequent maintenance of gaskets and cement seals. Specific heat capacity is 0.11 BTUs per pound per degree Fahrenheit. Soapstone is the Arctic gold standard. Soapstone is a metamorphic rock with high specific heat capacity, 0.19 BTUs per pound per degree Fahrenheit, and high density. It absorbs the intense heat of the fire and re-radiates it slowly as infrared warmth for 12 or more hours after the fire is out. This stabilizes cabin temperature. Residents can sleep through the night without waking to stoke. The drawbacks are expense, extreme weight, and slow initial heat up, often taking 2 to 4 hours to reach operating temperature. Fuel quality matters as much as stove material. Paper birch is premium fuel. It's dense, burns long and hot, and produces excellent coals. It has a heat value of approximately 20 to 27 million BTUs per cord, but it requires seasoning. Wood is cut in late winter or spring while the sap is down, then bucked to length, split, and stacked. It must dry for at least 12 months, preferably 2 years, to reach a moisture content below 20%. Burning wet wood wastes a massive percentage of energy just boiling off the water before combustion can occur. Wet wood also coats the chimney in creosote, a flammable tar that accumulates and can ignite, causing chimney fires that consume structures in seconds. White and black spruce are the most common trees, but they're secondary fuels. Spruce is less dense with 16 to 17 million BTUs per cord. It burns fast and hot but snaps and pops, throwing sparks. It's often used for kindling or shoulder season heating. The harvesting routine is year-round industrial labor. A cabin consuming 10 to 15 cords per winter means processing enormous volumes of wood. Each cord is a stack 4 feet high, 4 feet deep, and 8 feet long, 128 cubic feet. 15 cords means nearly 2,000 cubic feet of split-stacked wood that must be moved from forest to woodshed. 2. Cabin interior. Lighting a stove at -40 involves overcoming an aerodynamic barrier. The column of air inside the chimney flue is intensely cold and heavy, creating a cold plug that acts like a cork. When you open the stove door to light a fire, the heavy cold air in the chimney can cascade down into the room, filling the cabin with smoke and ash. The draft must be primed. Residents twist a piece of newspaper into a torch, light it, and hold it directly up into the chimney throat, bypassing the firebox. This sudden burst of heat warms the air in the flue, reversing the flow and establishing an updraft. Only then can the main fire be lit. If the cabin is too airtight, the stove may starve for oxygen. Opening a window slightly or installing a dedicated makeup air intake pipe balances the pressure and prevents backdrafting, where carbon monoxide is pulled back into the living space. The Toyo stove is the omnipresent mechanical heart of the Alaskan bush. These are direct vent, oil-fired heaters manufactured by Toyo. They're preferred over furnaces because they're 90% efficient, use minimal electricity, and don't require ductwork. But the Toyo is a complex machine with a computer brain, sensors, and a fuel injection system. The Achilles heel is the fuel itself. Heating oil and diesel contain paraffin waxes. At normal temperatures, these waxes are dissolved in the liquid. As the temperature drops to around +20 Fahrenheit, wax crystals begin to form. The fuel looks cloudy. This is the cloud point. Around 0 to -10 Fahrenheit, these crystals lock together. The fuel turns into a gel. This is the gel point. When this happens, the gel clogs the fuel filter and the injection nozzle. The stove's computer detects a flame failure and shuts down, displaying error codes like E13 or E03. In a cabin dependent on this stove, this is a crisis. Residents switch from number 2 heating oil to number 1 stove oil for the winter. Number 1 oil is essentially kerosene with wax chemically removed. It remains liquid to -60 or lower. Chemical anti-gel agents, products like Power Service or House, are added to the tank to inhibit crystal growth. The copper fuel line running from the outdoor tank to the indoor stove is wrapped in electric heat trace tape and insulated. But the Toyo cannot run without electricity. It needs power for the combustion fan, the fuel lifter pump, and the control board. In deep winter, solar panels produce negligible power. The sun angle is so low and the daylight so brief that panels generate only a fraction of their rated capacity. A cabin that might harvest several kilowatt hours per day in summer can see production drop to mere hundreds of watt hours in December and January. The cabin runs on a battery bank, lead acid or lithium cells wired together to store energy. Lead acid. Batteries lose capacity in the cold. Their chemistry slows, reducing both their ability to accept charge and their ability to deliver current. Lithium batteries perform better in cold, but are expensive and require sophisticated management systems to prevent damage from freezing. Either way, the batteries are a reservoir that drains steadily. Lights, the Toyo blower, the water pump, if there is one, the radio, the laptop, all of these draw down the bank. This creates a dependency chain. The heat depends on the stove depends on the batteries depend on a generator to charge them. Starting a generator at -40 is difficult. The oil is thick, flowing like cold honey. The starter battery loses 60% of its cranking power. The carburetor or fuel injection system must vaporize liquid fuel in air cold enough to prevent normal atomization. The cascade failure works like this. If the generator fails to start, frozen battery, gelled fuel, seized. Engine, the house batteries drain. Residents watch the voltage drop. 12 volts becomes 11.8, then 11.5. When the batteries hit the low voltage cutoff, the Toyo stove shuts off automatically to protect its electronics. The cabin begins to freeze. This is why many off-grid residents keep a small portable generator inside the cabin or in a heated shed. If the primary generator outside fails, the backup can be started in warmth. Some residents bring generators indoors overnight, running them briefly to top off batteries, then shutting them down to avoid carbon monoxide buildup. Others install engine block heaters on their generators, pre-warming the engine before attempting a start. The entire electrical system becomes a daily preoccupation, checking battery voltage at breakfast, calculating loads, rationing power use, and planning generator run times to balance fuel consumption against the risk of a dead battery bank. Many cabins in the interior are dry cabins, homes without running water or flush toilets. This sidesteps the engineering nightmare of plumbing in permafrost. Water is sourced from commercial water stations. Residents drive to these stations with 5-gallon jerry cans or 300-gallon pickup truck tanks. The valve on a large tank can freeze shut in the 15-minute drive home. Residents use heat guns or propane torches to thaw the valves before pumping water into the cabin's indoor holding tank. Gray water often dumps directly into a 5-gallon bucket under the sink. This slop bucket must be hauled outside and dumped. In winter, this creates a massive gray water glacier in the yard. The toilet is a pit latrine, an outhouse. At -40, styrofoam seats are essential because they don't conduct heat away from the skin. Many residents use indoor composting toilets during extreme cold snaps to avoid going outside. For cabins with plumbing, the pipes must be protected. From the cold, water is moved in Arctic pipe, a specialized conduit with a central carrier pipe, a channel for heat trace wire, and 4 inches of urethane foam insulation. These pipes often run above ground. Heat trace is the lifeline. Electric resistance cables are taped to every inch of pipe. Modern self-regulating cables increase their wattage output as temperature drops. For extreme cold, 5 to 8 watts per foot is standard. If the power goes out, the heat trace stops. The pipe freezes. PEX piping is preferred because it can expand without bursting. Copper splits. When a line freezes underground, the solution is the steam truck. A technician inserts a small diameter tube into the pipe and pumps high-pressure steam through it. The steam melts the ice barrier. This process often costs $500 to $1,500. Humans exhale roughly 1 to 2 liters of water vapor per day. Cooking and washing add more. In a tightly sealed Arctic cabin, this moisture condenses on the coldest surfaces, windows, door handles, screw heads. Residents must squeegee their windows every morning. Humidity must be monitored. If it rises above 30 to 35%, the risk of mold and structural rot increases. A stove might consume 10 to 15 cords of wood over a winter. This involves daily hauling from the woodshed to the cabin. The wood must be warmed inside before burning for best efficiency. Ash must be scooped out daily. Live coals can persist in ash for days, so it's dumped in metal cans, never plastic or cardboard. In dry cabins, every drop of water used must be hauled in and hauled out. This creates extreme conservation. Navy showers, wet down, soap up with water off, rinse briefly. Dishwater gets reused. Laundry is minimized. Bunny boots, the extreme cold vapor barrier. Boots are standard. They're massive white rubber boots with wool insulation sealed between layers of rubber. They're rated to -65. No Alaskan drives without a survival kit. This includes a sleeping bag, candles. A single candle can raise a car's interior temperature by 10 degrees, high-calorie food, and a shovel. If a car dies at -40, the interior cools to ambient temperature within 15 to 20 minutes. Cars are equipped with electric heating elements in the engine block, oil pan, and battery. These block heaters must be plugged in for 2 to 4 hours before starting. Unplugged cars simply don't start. The oil is too thick for the engine to turn over. At -40, rubber loses its elasticity. The part of the tire touching the ground flattens. When the car starts moving, the tires remain flat-spotted for several miles, causing the car to thump rhythmically until friction heat reshapes the rubber. The greatest fear in the Arctic winter is not freezing, but burning. The air is exceptionally dry. The cabin is built of wood and filled with wood. The stove runs 24 hours a day at high temperatures. A chimney fire or a wayward spark can consume a structure in seconds. There is no fire department in the bush. A cabin fire is total. In 2019, Tyson Steele lived remotely in the Susitna Valley. He put a large piece of cardboard in his stove. A spark ignited his roof. He had seconds to flee. He grabbed his boots, a coat, and a sleeping bag. His dog did not make it. He watched his home burn to the ground in -15-degree weather. He survived for 23 days in a snow cave dug near the warm ashes, eating canned food that had burst in the fire before being spotted by a helicopter. Carbon monoxide is the silent threat. To keep heat in, cabins are sealed tight. But negative pressure from the stack effect or a blocked flue can force combustion gases back into the room. Carbon monoxide is odorless. The symptoms, headache, nausea, drowsiness, mimic the winter blues or flu. In the deep dark of winter, a resident might simply lie down to nap and never wake up. Redundant carbon monoxide detectors are mandatory. The generator death spiral completes the failure cascade. If the generator won't start at -40, the house batteries drain. The Toyo stove shuts off. The cabin begins freezing within hours. There is no passive survival at -30. The margin for error is non-existent. A temperate climate resident might endure a broken furnace for a day with a sweater. An Alaskan resident faces the freezing of pipes, the death of batteries, and the potential loss of the home's habitability within hours of a system failure. The narrative of the Alaskan off-grid cabin is one of active, aggressive management. The cabin is not a shelter, it's a machine. It consumes wood, oil, water, and electricity, and it produces heat and safety. The margin between comfort and catastrophe is measured not in days, but in hours. The cold is patient, and it never stops testing the integrity of the bubble. The constant vigilance required is a way of life. Every chore, from splitting a cord of wood to maintaining the solar battery bank, is a critical system check. A missed maintenance cycle or a moment of complacency can invite disaster. Living here is a perpetual chess match against the elements, where the environment holds all the most powerful pieces. Residents must be intimately familiar with every creak and hum of their mechanical sanctuary. The wind howls a continuous threat, a reminder that the wild is always pressing in. The stakes are primal. Survival hinges on precision and foresight, turning a simple wooden structure into a fortress of human resilience against an indifferent frozen landscape.